This episode of the podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Visit patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to help support your favorite new movie podcast. Now, let's roll that reel.
Just do that.
That's not my name.
Yeah.
That's not my name.
And that's not my... What is that
They
from?
call me Stacy. Well, it's a song.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
You're probably thinking of Horrible Bosses when Charlie Day's in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's not my name. That's not my name.
I haven't seen that in a while. I need to rewatch that.
That's a good movie.
It's a good
Second
great
one
movie.
is meh.
It
Second
could be
one's meh.
worse, in all
It could,
fairness.
yeah.
But, yeah, it's just...
It's definitely not the worst offender in terms of comedy sequels.
True.
The thing that comedy sequel is like the genre of movie that really doesn't need to exist.
It doesn't. It's weird because most comedies start and end, and everyone leaves the theater pretty much satisfied. You don't have to have any more of that. I mean, there have been successful comedy franchises. Ace Ventura's sequel, I think, far superior to the original. But I think it's just so rare, or it just depends on the cast and whether or not you want to see that character again.
Yeah, the amount of good comedy sequels is way, way less than the amount of bad comedy sequels.
So let me ask you this. Would you rather see a comedy sequel to a very recent comedy that's popular, or would you rather see another franchise sequel from MCU, DCU, all that kind of stuff? Which one is less...
Wait. Oh, okay.
Which one would you want more than that?
For me, probably an older one, just because it has at least the opportunity to bank on nostalgia. You get at least some sort of value out of it.
Well,
but on the other hand, there's like a recency bias with comedies.
Yeah.
So like the sooner you put them out, the more it makes sense. That's why it's like, oh wow, you're putting out a sequel to Anchorman 10 years after the fact.
Yeah, Anchorman, Zoolander.
And no surprise, they were terrible.
Yeah, exactly, because those characters are no longer relevant.
But like, if you do like, oh okay, it's 2 years after the first one, we're gonna do a sequel. Then they just kind of like phone it in. I don't know. You can phone it in either way. See, this is why I think like comedy sequels just really shouldn't exist.
They shouldn't. And no, Jonah Hill just recently got interviewed, and they asked him if they would ever want to do a Superbad sequel. He's like, I would only want to do it whenever I'm 80 years old and we're playing like 80-year-old bachelors. And he was,
the Bill
of
and
course,
Ted
kidding.
route.
Yeah, exactly. The super old...
I actually think that would super work because like that's a fantastic idea. I'd be super on board for that. That would be amazing. I'd love to see a Superbad sequel like 40 years down the line when nobody remembers Superbad.
I think it would both work because of how long, like literal decades in between the movies, but at the same time, you might as well just call it something else, and it would be something else, you know? They're just playing other characters. Plus, I don't know.
A plot-driven dirty grandpa at that point.
Exactly. But then again, we have Dirty Grandpa, so we have just that as a reference. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lights, Camera, Nonsense, where we give you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. I'm Nick. Do you like scary movies? Simmons.
And I'm Zach. 6 months late to the game, Smith.
Uh-oh. She's already mostly pregnant by then.
Yep. One has to wonder.
One has to guess. And on Saturday, January? Yeah, it is January. January 15th, 2022, let's roll into the previews. If you are watching us a day late. We are re-uploading on Patreon at patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Help support your favorite new movie podcast by heading on over to patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Toss in $1 or $2 and then know that it's going towards a good cause. And that is helping us buy more movie tickets, because we're not getting free movie tickets at this point.
You really.
I am. That's only because I'm a platinum member for Cinemark Movie Club. And that's simply because I go to the movies far too often, Zach.
You go through the side entrance where
I have a golden pass. It's like
a
golden ticket, but it's like it's got my name on it, and it's got my picture doing like this, finger guns.
The Cinemark bouncer knows who you are.
They tip,
like, oh yeah, it's Mr. Simmons.
Mr. Simmons, come on through. And he hands me a
Please
bucket
don't-
of popcorn, and like they pull a hooker over from the side, and I get like hand jobs.
What movie theater are you going to?
A Cinemark. I'm going to a Cinemark movie theater.
I was gonna say, like,
Movie
here's your
theaters have changed
complimentary.
in the last year, Zach.
I was gonna say, here's your complimentary pack of red vines since we can't sell these.
Oh my God, red vines. No, thank you. I would rather have Twizzlers, and I think we will eventually have that discussion about what exactly you need to buy at a movie theater, because it varies from person to person. Everyone has their own preferences.
I have a specific thing, you know this, that I get every time when we go to the movies. I
do.
haven't gotten it in a while.
Yeah. Well,
But yes, every time.
you're better off for it because honestly, the at least at the movie theater closer to us, the Cinemark that I go to, or closer to me, I should say. It's closer to me now. But yeah, the slushie machine has been down. It's been down for a while.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Now they know. Now they know I get a slushie every time.
Or icy, whatever you want to call it. But why would you get an icy in the winter? Why would you get a cold,
Why wouldn't
super
you?
frozen drink?
Dude, I just got. It's like what, like 34 degrees outside right
It's
now where we
fucking
are.
nipple hardening
And
cold.
I've already finished my iced coffee. For
Why?
The day.
Get hot coffee. What?
It's you gotta wait. You gotta wait for the sweet spot for hot coffee. It's like I really like hot coffee, but unless I'm brewing it at home, where it can like kind of sit there for the right amount of time,
Right.
then like it's hit or miss whether or not I go out and get it. You know, it's either I have to wait even longer because it's in it's not in a mug. It's like in a actual sealed cup.
Yeah, it's a weird.
I have to wait longer
Space
for it
age
to,
thing.
to cool down to a not scalding level, but don't want to wait too long because you still want it to be hot because you ordered a hot coffee. It's just, there's too much work.
It's a balancing act. Yeah, no, I
Whereas
get it.
when I get this, I take it out of the bag and I go,
Blim, 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 blim. Okay.
and that probably sounded great on the mic.
Well, I was gonna say if you want to watch us sip drinks directly into our microphones, you can head on over to patreon.com/lightscameranonsense, or you could just wait another day and view us on YouTube at youtube.com/lightscameranonsense. I don't know if we actually have the URL yet, but
We are starting the ASMR movie spinoff on our Patreon.
munching- it's mostly popcorn.
Munching popcorn.
yeah, and M&Ms and like sucking on Twizzlers or Red Vines.
Like stepping on the sticky floor of
Oh,
a
fun.
movie theater.
Yeah, that's exactly what people want to hear. Yeah. Oh no. No. If you don't have time to look at our beautiful faces and you just want to listen to those beautiful sounds, you can also just download us on any podcast service of your choice. That's Spotify, iTunes, Last.fm, anywhere you find your podcasts. Rate us 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever you do to help support us. That helps out a lot. But let's move into the podcast, Zach, because we have a lot to talk about. Not only did we talk about last two episodes, we had a two-parter. We had our best movies and our best TV shows. But I wanted to go over the worst movies of 2021 before we talk about what we've watched over the last week. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's. There's plenty to choose from.
Yes, sir. There is. So, actually, let me make sure that it's in my notes. I have a notepad here. Oh fuck.
Notepad. You, Steve from Blue's Clues.
Yes.
You got to
Here
check
it
your
is.
handy dandy notebook.
Handy dandy. Okay, so we have best blah 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 blah. Worst movies of 2021. I figured we could talk about these just to kind of get it off our chest. I had all this pent up energy by the end of the podcast last time, and I want to just make sure I get it off of my chest so that we can move on and start talking about 2022 because there's a lot to talk about.
It's part of the grieving process.
It really is, because I feel like every single time I'm at a funeral, I'm like, you know what, this person was actually a piece of shit. It makes me feel better, because I'm still alive. They're dead.
Please
But
don't come to my funeral.
You know what? Fuck
they're
that.
like ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and you're in the back. Fuck that.
This guy sucks.
Worst podcast co-host ever.
Well, it's okay. You're gonna be like dead at 80 or whatever, after episode 2784.
You know what? 80. I'll call 80 a win.
Yeah, that's a good age.
Yeah.
It's not Betty White, but Neither is she.
Well, I mean,
Okay, so worst movies. I wanted to talk about, for just start off right off the bat, too much Ryan Reynolds. Too much Ryan Reynolds.
you say this, but I didn't watch a single Ryan Reynolds. Ryan
Reynolds.
I didn't watch one Ryan Reynolds this movie this year.
Um,
Papa, who's the Ryan Reynolds on the
that's
screen?
so Free Guy, which was probably the best out of the three movies that I wanted to talk about. You know, had fun with all of the video game references and tried to bring, you know, online gaming to like the modern movie audience or whatever. But the people who are watching this or who are fans of Ryan Reynolds or who would probably be able to get those references were probably also cringing at the humor or the meta humor.
I've seen it go both ways.
It's it's kind of a spit in the face. I don't know what else to say. It was kind of just like, if you're gonna make if you're gonna make a good video game movie, you can't reference any video games whatsoever. I mean, there was a very specific scene where Ryan Reynolds is trying to beat up a muscular Ryan Reynolds evil clone that the
this is the scene that was on Twitter for like a week, because
they pull out the energy sword from Halo. Yeah. They pull out like lightsabers from Star Wars. It was just a lot of like, hey, look, it's that famous thing from that other franchise.
It's clap when you see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was what Ready Player One tried to do. Well, it did successfully, but it was just like, it's in that same genre of, oh my gosh, it's too many references. Oh my gosh, it's too much fan service. It was very distracting. And honestly, the humor was not great. Like, Taika Waititi was at his least funny in this movie. And he was one of the main characters. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Ryan Reynolds. This time also starring Morgan Freeman, also starring Salma Hayek, also starring so many others. It was a quick 90-minute action comedy film along the lines of like Red, or, you know, it's obviously
Red 2.
Whereas you have like a whole bunch of action stars trying to do like comedy bits in a quick, fun way. It was very cheesy and just like, this was at the point where I was just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm not liking Ryan Reynolds anymore. Like, when people were telling me for the longest time, oh, I don't really like Will Ferrell or his comedy. There's just, I don't get it. I'm like, what are you talking about? You got Anchorman, you got, you know, Zoolander, you got all of these other movies where Will Ferrell's the best. But because there's so much Will Ferrell over an extended period of years, it's just like, yeah, you kind of get burned out by a specific actor.
It's the Chris Pratt phenomenon.
Exactly. That's the new thing. And then Red Notice, which was another action comedy movie starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, starring Gal Gadot, starring obviously Ryan Reynolds. It was so poorly written, Zach. It was. They went from like action set piece to action set piece. They were literally changing continents like every 5 minutes. It was the plot was all over the place, and it was just like a.
Well, yeah, they were on a different continent. Of course, it's all over the place.
It was quite literally all over the. Thank you. Pat yourself on the back there.
You could do that in post, a little badum-tish, if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna make more work for you now by just asking for sound edits,
especially when you know that it's going to be me who's editing it. I appreciate that. And they've already greenlit 2 sequels that they're going to film back to back, which I fucking hate, because it was apparently, according to Netflix, their most viewed movie of all year last year, which I feel is inaccurate. That can't possibly be true.
The whole like Netflix's thing of being like, this is the most viewed thing ever on the platform, it's just white noise now.
Yeah.
It feels like everything that comes out is the next most viewed Netflix thing ever.
It doesn't
mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything if you don't give us the numbers, man. Like, I don't have any frame of reference. Yeah. The most viewed could be like 1 million accounts, and guess how many people that actually is? Like maybe 3 million. But they have like 1 billion active users. So
well, and like I think they chart it, like they measure it in a way where it's like, did you watch? It's sometimes I don't know if it still does this, but I do remember someone saying that the bump was it measured as a watch sometimes, Like if you're just letting it play off the menu,
That's cheating.
So it's like something like even if you only watch like 5 minutes of the movie, they're like, yeah, we'll count that as a watch.
Because it auto plays the movie if you leave it on too long. Mm-hmm. So, fuck Ryan Reynolds. Did you have a movie you wanted to talk about? That
you know, there was for me there were quite a few subpar movies this year, but there was only one that really like legitimately made me disappointed. And it goes back to our Godzilla vs. Kong episode.
Oh, no. Is it Godzilla vs. Kong?
It's Godzilla vs. Kong.
Oh, really?
I was so... Yeah, you can get some more, like, specific detail by going back to that episode and listening to us give our review of it. Godzilla vs. Kong was something I was extremely excited for a long time, especially because it kept getting delayed. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, I'm a big Godzilla fan. Godzilla vs. Kong was a Kong movie. It was not a Godzilla movie. Godzilla was in it, briefly.
Yeah.
But there's, like, one of the main reasons I was hyped was because I came away from King of Monsters. That was one of the best Godzilla movies I've ever watched.
It was
just
amazing.
from a fan perspective. There's so much love and attention to detail. The Bear McCreary soundtrack is fucking top notch. I still listen to that thing, just off randomly because it's so good. It is like a fan's like dream in terms of like here's all some of your favorite monsters, like a great setup, you have a pretty decent cast of human characters, which, by comparison to at least 2014's Godzilla is a huge step up.
It's important. It's half the story.
Yeah. It was just so much fun, and I loved every second of it. So to go from that, like, dizzying high to sort of a, like, meh middle, which is what Godzilla vs. Kong was, at least until the end, which is where I like the last 30 or 20 minutes of the movie. I did quite enjoy, just because it kind of got around that same kind of feel,
right?
But the rest of it was just like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not feeling the love. There's not a whole lot of references to the past, or there's not, like, even the musical cue is kind of truncated. It doesn't go into a whole thing. It's just like a bum 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 bum, and that's it.
The classic,
yeah.
But only a few notes of it.
But it doesn't go into the rest of the song.
See who did the music. Tom Holkenborg or Junkie XL.
Yes, yeah. They were pushing that, like, oh, we got Junkie on it, as like a huge get, and yeah, like, it's no qualms about it. He's a good composer, but just in terms of like fan love, I just didn't feel it. It felt like a major step down. So even though I think the movie is like okay, for me, I don't think anything disappointed me as much as Godzilla vs. Kong. Well, that one really hurt.
And the director's previous film was Death Note, Netflix Death Note. Yeah. But to go from that to this, especially because it's such a huge spectacle movie, and I completely agree with you 100% that most of the good parts of this movie are in the last 20-30 minutes of the movie. Of course, the actual fight between Godzilla and Kong, and then, spoiler, but the movie's been out almost a year, Godzilla versus Kong versus Mechagodzilla. Story beats it all. You have to suspend your disbelief because these are giant monsters fighting each other. The fact that there is a literal Earth inside of Earth, you have to just like
the hollow Earth.
Yeah, the spaceships that they're flying around in. A lot of people were just like, ugh, too much sci-fi in my giant kaiju movie. I'm like, okay,
which doesn't make any sense.
You need to get off your tiny high horse. Wait.
But see, like, I think that's part of the problem, because I think anyone who's saying that is like going in and expecting a Kong movie, which like Skull Island was still pretty sci-fi. I mean, it had monsters in it, but comparatively, it was still kind of a grounded kaiju movie, you know. So I think they were probably going into that expecting more Skull Island, and Godzilla fans are going into it and hoping for some Godzilla love, mostly because Godzilla is your first name on the marquee. And it's mostly a Kong movie, but then like not as grounded, you know?
Well, I mean, you know, it's ironic. You could say the same thing about King Kong versus Godzilla. The previous fight between these two.
That one has King Kong flying with balloons, though.
Yeah, but I mean,
so like your argument is moot.
Don't they do that in this movie too?
They kind of do that. It's not like in the original they're like flying Kong in via balloon
like
to fight Godzilla on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Whereas in Godzilla versus Kong, they're like helicarrying him across an ocean, and then he eventually like
to get
detaches.
To the tunnel.
He's asleep, you know, for the majority of it. They're not like Dumbo dropping Kong in this movie.
Man, so many classic movies we're referencing right before Godzilla vs Kong. Anyway, it's interesting to see that that's on your like worst or like, at least more disappointing movies.
Well, and again, I don't think it's like a super bad movie. I mean, like Space Jam came out the last year, and that's an infinitely worse movie.
That's on here.
But conversely, I expected A New Legacy to be terrible. Yeah. So when I got into that, I was like, yeah, this is terrible. It's exactly what I expected / kind of wanted. I'm getting the cringe. From what's Don Cheadle's character
name? Will I Am.
Shoot.
Megabyte. Something. It's something computer related. You're gonna remember.
Oh man, what was it?
Our friend D knows, but
dang, that's gonna kill me. It's a dumb movie, you know, and that's what you expect going into it.
Fucking, I'll look it up.
With Godzilla vs Kong, I expect a dumb movie, but a dumb awesome movie, you know, and one where they take this, they put
algae rhythm.
That's it, algae rhythm. See, that's great. That's what I expect from Space Jam 2.
I have the urge to vomit right now.
What I don't expect is algae rhythm in Godzilla vs. Kong. You know, I expect dumb lizard fights, but they're fucking rad. And you put the love on the name of the dumb lizard. You know, like he's a sweet lizard. Baby.
All right, let's move on. I'm just gonna breeze through a couple of these because we kind of talked about it in the past. God's Not Dead, We the People, Fuck You. Just in general, if you don't know about the God's Not Dead movies, they're just like religious propaganda, really, for white rich Christians. But this one just got really political with it because obviously it came out in 2020, all that kind of stuff. That movie, I didn't even have to. I just watched clips. I did not actually watch the movie, but that movie can suck a dick. Venom 2, which was
Venom.
Here Comes the Carnage. Is that what it was called?
Yes. Let There Be Carnage.
Let There Be Carnage.
Here Comes the Carnage. That's awesome.
That's
a
cool title. But Let There Be Carnage is a literal line pulled from a Carnage comic book. Yeah. Well, it was cheesy bad in the same way that Venom was, but I feel like Venom 2 leaned more into it to where it knew what it was. It wasn't trying to be a serious movie. The only thing that makes Venom 2 relevant at all is its post-credit scene, and that was it's tied into Spider-Man because, well, and it's not really even spoiling it because that post-credit scene ties into a post-credit scene for the new Spider-Man. So it doesn't matter because it's instantly fucking reversed. Yeah. Another couple, Infinite, fuck you, Mark Wahlberg and your infinite lives. Get out of here. That movie, which was one of the Paramount Plus,
how many hate crimes does he do in his infinite lives?
Well, we only see a couple of his lives, but I assume quite a few.
An infinite number of hate
Infinite
crimes.
number of hate crimes. He's just an absolute douche. Dear Evan Hansen, wow, what a bad musical movie. The music didn't resonate with me. The fact that a 33-year-old man was playing a teenager didn't resonate with me. Although I'll talk more about that with our actual main subject of this podcast. And the fact that the main character is an absolute asshole and we're supposed to be rooting for him by the end of it, I never did. And it made this story, it just kicked me out of the story. It's just bad. I never watched the play or read the book or whatever. But yeah, fuck that. The Amazon Prime Video Cinderella sucks.
Yeah,
was
that was
bad.
there was some rough clips coming out of that.
It was just like, hey, let's try to be modern relevant while also trying to be a fantasy story that you've seen 100,000 times before. If you've seen it before, whether it be the Disney version or a Cinderella story starring Chad Michael Murray, then
He's not dead.
He's not dead. No, I just like respect.
You like before above your workstation, you have a framed photograph of Chad.
There's a poster, of Chad Michael Murray and a Cinderella story. It's just a poster.
Every time you sit down to record, you touch it like the believe sign in Ted Lasso,
or the hang in there cat poster. Another couple, the Tomorrow War, which is getting a sequel.
The Tomorrow's Yesterday War.
Yes.
Or Yesterday's Tomorrow
The
War.
Tomorrow's Wife's Bodyguard.
The day after tomorrow.
Oh no!
War.
Jake Gyllenhaal is coming back for the
Gyllenhaal.
sequel. It's terrible CGI alien war movie. I got instant Edge of Tomorrow vibes, but this one's worse.
Okay, but all right,
it's worse. It's just worse.
But there's some great shit in Edge of Tomorrow.
I know it's
Live
great,
Tyree.
and we're getting a sequel to that too. And I'd much rather watch that one than the sequel to the Tomorrow War. Army of the Dead and Army of Thieves. Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder. How you know better? You can do better.
Does he? Jury's out. I think
Jury's
at this
out.
point.
I mean, he knows how to direct a good movie, but he chooses not to. Guardians of Ga'Hoole, I still hold up as his best movie. And that's because he's not directing live action people, or it's all CG owls and shit. Watch Guardians of Ga'Hoole. Or Legends of the Guardians? Guardians of Ga'Hoole? I mix it up with the holiday thing.
Ga'Hoole.
Yeah, Ga'Hoole. It'll be easy to find when you type in Ga'Hoole. Chaos Walking, starring Rey Skywalker and Spider-Man.
Yes, the infamous Chaos Walking that was in development, or it was finished and then shelved for like 4 or 5 years until they finally released it.
Until they released it after several $1 million worth of reshoots that did not help it at all. They should have cashed in on it whenever they were high on the stars' success, but because it was in between both of those actors' movies, and because the subject matter and story were kind of like meh, YA novel bullshit, it's like meh. Mortal Kombat, I'm so disappointed in. It's bad, but at the same time, it's in that same kind of boat as Godzilla vs. Kong, where I'm just more disappointed because they had every opportunity to make a good, hard R-rated Mortal Kombat story, and they chose to bring in a brand new character for some reason and give him the stupidest power whatsoever, and explaining everyone's like origins all in one movie. They tried to do too much with the opportunity that they had, and they squandered it.
Yeah, this one didn't hurt me as much as Godzilla vs. Kong, but
because your expectations were lower.
They were lower, and quite frankly, I don't think anything could top 95.
The original
Mortal Kombat.
The original. Annihilation is not who you're talking about.
No. Although, like,
shall die.
Your soul is mine.
That's the original one.
That's great. That is the original.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're both cheesy bad, but like one did significantly different CG choices. So I don't know. Reminiscence, Hugh Jackman, you know better. It was a neo-noir post-apocalyptic movie set in New Orleans, I think.
Yeah, it was one of their early HBO Max releases alongside theaters.
It was it had a lot of chances for it to be successful. It was written by Jonathan Nolan, brother of Christopher Nolan, who helped write the Dark Knight movies.
Also Westworld.
And also directed by, I can't remember her name, but she also worked on Westworld.
I want to go to Westworld. That sounds great.
Unless it's just all restrooms and you're waiting in line.
Oh no! See, I'm thinking like hammocks and shit.
Lisa Joy, who helped work on Westworld and Pushing Daisies and Burn Notice. I thought there was a lot of visual flair and style to it, but it was too complicated of a story, and it tried to do too little with its science fiction premise. It didn't do enough. Thunder Force, the Netflix movie starring Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer.
It's like, what is this?
Thunder Force. It was where they became superheroes. Yeah. I immediately wanted to punch myself in the dick several thousand times because it was that cringy. Although Jason Bateman as the crab guy with the crab hand, he's just normal Jason Bateman as a normal villain, but he has crab hands, and so he's a villain. He was pretty funny in that.
But was he just Jason Bateman again?
Yeah, but with crab hands. Crab hands makes a big difference. And finally, old M. Night Shyamalan. I shouldn't be disappointed at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what you expected. I feel like anyone who went into old expecting something different.
It's a beach that makes you
old. I
don't
know what to tell you. Do not know what to tell you. You have had chances after chances to get this down.
I think
he's gone. Let him go.
Oh my god, this chair is squeaky. I don't know why. I had expectations even like at a mid level. I really shouldn't have, even after watching the trailer, but yeah. Severely disappointed in that. It was a huge success though, and we're actually kind of in the minority of people not liking it for the most part. And Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is it's a good Resident Evil movie. It's a bad regular movie.
Yeah. It also holds the dubious honor of having probably the worst cut trailer ever.
It is. Okay,
or at least one of the worst that I've seen in a long time.
Are you talking about the American trailer? Because the international trailer is way better cut.
Yes, it is. Incredibly so. But the American version is not good. It has a very strange song choice that I think if you had cut the trailer better would have worked on some level. But it was like they did the trailer in a certain style, which would preclude like at least action movie, if not horror movie, and then did the slow kind of. It's supposed to be like the slow, melancholic, like pop song sort of deal, but it's just the normal version of the song.
It's well, and to be fair, I could have sworn the director was in the editing bay because, or the actual literal trailer. I assume that they cut trailers in. Do they cut trailers in trailers? I need to know.
Probably depends on where you are.
No, they're probably in really fancy studios for some reason, even though you could do it on a laptop. Take that, trailer cutters. Let me do your job.
Doing the job of early YouTube AMV creators.
I mean, what literal like millions of people do every day when they cut together a YouTube video. That's what a trailer cutter does. I mean, I know that there's a lot more nuance to it.
This is like, this is.
But
so
you're using $1 million. I'm being reductive on purpose. I'm very jealous of the job. They get paid a lot of money to do what I like to do, which is introduce people into the exciting opportunities of movies. But they fuck it up all the time by putting in melancholy pop songs or like Hans Zimmer, kind of thing. It's just like, read the internet forums that are telling you the fucking memes and trends that they're getting from all the trailers. Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, I think, is a great movie for fans of the games who just want to do what did you call it earlier? It was just like catch the reference or something.
Oh yeah, I clapped when I saw it.
Clap when I saw it, or Quissy or Quissy.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
You don't like Quissy? Clap when I saw it. Yeah, Quissy.
Quissy.
It's a Quissy film. It's weird because when you watch it, you're like, this was definitely made in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? And you're like, nope, those are the Paul W.S. Anderson movies that Nick watched for the 1.0 version of this podcast.
Yeah, that almost killed Zach.
Almost killed me. Or
reduced him to dust.
Yeah. And it's weird because it definitely kind of leans into knowing what it is, being like self-referential. You know, the Jill sandwiches they make a reference to, the cheesy, campy dialogue of some of the games, or even the cutscenes they make reference to. But at the same time, the director kind of treats it like a serious action horror film, and it's not. Because, like, the zombies aren't really zombies. They're saying certain things, or they're acting like 28 Days Later kind of zombies. And it feels like it tries to do too much and too little. It's trying to cover two games that came out in the early 90s that were... I don't know. If you're a fan of the Resident Evil games, definitely check it out. You know, give it a shot. Give it the first 30 minutes or so. It definitely changes by the end of the movie, but you're in for a ride. I will probably rewatch this coming Halloween. Not because it's a scary movie.
So one of your worst watched movies this year is something you'll rewatch
because it's fun. I'm saying it's not. I was disappointed.
I see. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Quality wise, the quality of a normal movie is below par on this movie. However, it is enjoyable to you.
It's enjoyable to me, but it is not enjoyable to a large portion of the movie-watching audience.
Literally the opposite of my Godzilla vs. Kong experience.
Exactly. Hey, we all have different experiences when we watch different kinds of movies, man. We're all different people.
That's true. That is also true.
Did you have any last ones?
No, I mean, plenty of media. The Tom and Jerry movie came out.
Yeah,
that was about as mediocre, bland of a movie as you could get. But you know, I don't know what you would expect. I watched Scoob as well. Was that last year?
I believe so.
No, I think that was the year prior.
I
think I just watched it. I don't know.
Let's see. Just a long pregnant pause while I look up Scoob.
Push.
That
Breathe.
was 2020.
Oh God, he's ugly.
He looks exactly like Shaggy. Zach, what have you watched this week?
All right, so normal, quote unquote, normal stuff, current stuff that I watched. I got around to watching the third episode of Boba Fett.
Oh.
A lot of quote unquote discourse around this one.
Try not to spoil a bit because I'm actually not up to date.
Yes, yeah.
I've watched one and two.
Quite frankly, I don't think there's really anything to spoil.
Okay.
It's just it's very, I want to say almost prequel-esque in the things it chooses to do. But in a competent way, you know? So it's not like your standard Star Wars story that's happening in episode 3, and there's parts of it that are like the aesthetic of some things you're kind of like, some people have said like, oh, this doesn't belong in a Star Wars movie. I think episode 3 is actually really fun. There's only one downside to that, and that is now that I think about it, a spoiler, so I won't go into that.
Okay.
Suffice it to say that it's a bummer for me, and I'll wait for you to see it because I'll know, you know, I think you'll know when you get to it
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
I feel bad because I was going to watch it, but I ended up getting distracted with another release that I'll talk about.
You did watch quite a bit in preparation of this other thing. But other than that, I thought it was a fun episode. I actually really enjoyed it. So far, the worst episode for me has been episode 1, and that's not necessarily even from a like quality standpoint. I just kind of found that it was a little slow and dragged a bit.
Slow intro.
Yeah, but 2 and 3, I think have been enjoyable.
So, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Would you say for a Star Wars series, that's what it is. Would you say that this is worth it so far? Like, was this a story
worth it?
Like that
needed to be told,
right?
I think it remains to be seen, just because we're only 3 episodes in. Mm-hmm. So far, no. It has a very supplemental reading material sort of feeling to it.
Because it's called Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. They are doing this thing where they're like approaching certain aspects of the universe and the lore and re-examining it, which I really enjoy. I think that's a really neat thing to do. So it's like, everything you know about Tusken Raiders is slanted, or everything you think about bounty hunters is slanted. That kind of already happened in Mandalorian, but it's that kind of thing. They keep doing that with each episode, which I'm really enjoying. So I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it's additive in certain parts. And at the end of the day, I'm enjoying what I'm watching. So
it's better than being strapped to a chair and having to watch like old episodes of Maury.
Yeah, what a choice, that one.
I was trying to think of any kind of talk show, and I almost said Oprah, but I'm like, I can kind of get behind Oprah for a while.
I also love that you called him Maury.
Because I was like, is it Maury?
Maury?
Is it Maury?
Maury.
Maury? Okay. I was like, Maury. It's been a minute. It's not one of those names or words you see and you're like, oh yeah, Maury. Yeah, it's Maury. No, because that's something else.
Maori is like a Pokemon.
No, it's an indigenous people.
Maori,
Maori?
Oh my
Maori?
god!
Oh god!
Yes,
Oh, no.
Jesus!
Should I cut this
Fucking
bit?
idiot!
Okay, I'm sorry, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. That's my fault.
So other than Book of Boba Fett, I also finally was able to watch.
I just realized Tamura Morrison.
Yes.
Yes. Is okay. Yeah.
I was also able to finally watch Eternals.
Finally!
Disney/Marvel Studios deemed it available to me to actually watch without getting sick.
You may watch it. What did you think?
So, Eternals is interesting. I think much like the discourse surrounding the 3rd episode of Boba Fett, I think a lot of Eternals gets blown out of proportion. Because I saw like the vitriol directed at this movie when it first came out was like really ridiculous, and I expected as much, seeing all that, because there's a certain subset of the internet that just like will never shut up about shit.
Find some reason to be upset about every single thing that comes out.
Yeah, because you shit your pants and nobody's been around to change your diaper. It's a fine movie. It's definitely, it's weak. I don't think it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. It's just kind of there. There's a lot of like downtime and where you're kind of like, it's weird. It like it rides the line between feeling like a lot of it is unnecessary, but then also feeling like if you had just given this a little bit more time to breathe, then I think this could have really been something special. And so I sent out a tweet right after watching it where I said, after watching Eternals, I can now confidently say that I think Hawkeye should have been the movie. Mm-hmm. Eternals should have been the TV show. Because there's a lot of Hawkeye where I feel like that really is. There's a lot of that show that is unnecessary. I think you could really condense that down to a 2-hour movie.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Yeah.
And still have all your big moments and, character hits and all that. With Eternals, it has moments that don't feel like you did the work to get there, and so they end up feeling like they're unnecessary. But I think if you had, and like watching this, I really feel like there's probably like a 4-hour director's cut somewhere,
An even longer version, right?
Yeah,
because there's so long of a span of time that they're trying to cover with these characters and with their backstories and with their motivations.
Yes,
and it's too much to cover, even with its runtime.
It feels weird to say, but I think this could have actually benefited with a sort of timeline split, kind of like season 1 of Witcher. Mm-hmm. Just, without being confusing. And they do a good job with the timeline jumping in Eternals, because they blatantly put like where things are taking place in terms of in terms of location and year. So I think that actually would have really worked for this, because you could have mirrored your two stories. You could have run your past story culminating in like your mid-season sort of quote-unquote break, but halfway through your show, like where they all kind of go off on their own, and mirror that alongside with like, okay, well, why are all these people separated, and then after that, after they get to that point, kind of converge into your present timeline and go into the last couple final stands and whatnot. And I think that would have really worked. You would have gotten a lot more character insight. You had mentioned it last time we recorded, but there are some characters that really do get the short end of the stick in terms of development. They're just kind of there, but they still try to like shove in the character development,
right?
Because obviously, if you're trying to gain some sentiment for these characters, you want to have something in there for your audience to latch onto, and you can't have that if you're just like, and here's Eternal number 5.
Well, yeah, 10 characters is a lot of characters to introduce, and for you to sympathize and care about when, spoiler alert, not all of them survive the movie. And so by the end of the movie, you're supposed to have felt all of these emotions about certain characters and the relations to the other characters, not to mention the overarching external threat.
Right.
So,
and if they had done a TV show, you could have gotten that prolonged
you get
character development. Yeah. Exactly.
How'd you feel about the very awkward sex scene that they threw in there?
I didn't think it was that awkward. I think there's been like 3 sex scenes total in Marvel, and one of them was even cut to black. I think that was Dark. Was that Dark World? Was there a sex scene in Dark World? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I just remember Natalie Portman waking up in a bed.
That's basically what it is. They start kissing, and then it cuts to something else, and then it's implied when they wake up.
It's the most quote-unquote graphic sex scene so far in Marvel.
I was suddenly on the side of the MPAA for a total of a few minutes.
Yeah, I think it was fine. It feels a little out of place because it's a Marvel property, but the thing about this movie is it doesn't really feel very Marvel.
The whole movie doesn't. No, it has the same visual style as No Man Land. If you watched that by Chloe Zhao, which again we talked about last time we recorded. That was her previous film, and then she directly led into this. The visual flair of her directorial style is there, and so it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie, and I think that's the point of Phase 4 is moving forward, at least with the films. We're trying something else.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I still got the feeling from Shang-Chi that, like, oh, this is a Marvel movie. I definitely felt that with Black Widow. Like, this is a Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah.
This one... And yeah, the visual flair, it looks really good. There are some iffy CG things that going on here and there, but overall, the art direction is fantastic on the whole. I think really striking visuals and shots in it. It looks really good. Mm-hmm. I just don't think there's like a whole lot of meat to sink your teeth into. And I think a lot of that has to do with the format that they chose.
Yeah.
And I also really feel like the reception would have been better if they had gone the, prestige television route or the streaming route. Because you'd have your kind of Game of Thrones discussion at the end of each week.
Right.
So, I don't know. On the whole, I didn't hate it. I didn't even really dislike it, but I didn't, come away with going like, yeah, that was really good.
I would say you could literally cut out this movie so far from Phase 4, or even the greater MCU from the previous saga, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's the difficult part right now is... sorry, I feel like I was about to sneeze. The biggest problem with this movie is that it's because it feels so different and set apart from the MCU, and because so far it is so different and far apart from the MCU, that it just seems extra and unnecessary, much like Boba Fett, as of right now. But
they both have a very supplemental feel.
The good thing about Boba Fett so far is that we know he's an established character, whereas the Eternals necessarily are not. So it's difficult because they were they were hoping for the success of Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to an amalgamation of interesting characters with interesting powers.
Yeah, hodgepodge.
But the thing is that if you don't have a decent story to back up those characters, then it's not going to be as successful. And
it has double the amount that Guardians did.
It does.
So it's really hard to do that legwork.
Mm-hmm. I will say, before we move on to the next thing, it is awkward to watch that sex scene, especially when you are in a movie theater with kids. Because their parents did not research that movie before they went in, because they were expecting it's a Marvel movie. Yeah, you were.
I was at home alone, so
yeah. So, I bet that scene did something different for you.
So yeah, that was Eternals. But we can move on to you now, Sir Nicholas.
Yes.
What did you watch?
I am a sir. All right.
Yes, a haughty sir.
Oh, we're straightening our over things.
That's how you know the people are fans.
They're just constantly
they straighten their clothes. Like
I rewatched that scene from Breaking Bad where, spoiler alert, Giancarlo Esposito's character is straightening his tie after he gets blown up. And I'm it's pretty cool. He's badass even when he dies. Again, spoiler alert, but it's fucking Breaking Bad.
You had plenty of time.
You've had many years. First thing I wanted to talk about is the thing that distracted me from Boba Fett and Archive 81, which actually just dropped. I want to watch that. Really excited. Heard really good things about that. I'm going to watch that for next week's episode. But I ended up watching Peacemaker because the first 3 episodes dropped on HBO Max. And it is a sequel / continuation of Peacemaker's story. Peacemaker, of course, being the character who was introduced in The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. From August of last year. He was writing and directing The Suicide Squad, and then while he was waiting for that to be released, he ended up going, you know what, fuck it, I want to hang out with John Cena some more. And so he wrote an entire series of Peacemaker. And
I'm just surprised that he even found him.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's
it's hard to find the guy because he's invisible.
Well, he's wearing a big shiny helmet, Zach. So
that's true. Yeah.
So this time it's different. It's floating.
That sounds like sounds like a movie tagline that someone super phoned in. They're just like, this time it's different, but really, pretty much the same.
It's pretty much
because we don't want to deviate too much from the thing that made the last one successful.
Well, I'll talk about that here in a minute. But Peacemaker is, if you were a fan of The Suicide Squad or Guardians of the Galaxy, and you were aware of James Gunn's type of writing style, very grounded, very relatable characters, jumping off each other, dialogue in a very witty, sort of almost anti-Aaron Sorkin kind of way, in a very dumbed down, they kind of reference the Mandela effect in episode 3, where one character is naming their targets, and he's like, the Berenstein Bears have just rolled into the Target location, and another character's like in the van is like, it's Berenstain Bears, named after the creators. And then it's just a running joke throughout the rest of that episode that they don't know whether it's Berenstein or Berenstain.
It's so very gun humor.
It's very, very easily relatable kind of humor because you've had that conversation with somebody, family member or friend. But anyway, Peacemaker is set not long after the events of the Suicide Squad, and it follows a very different kind of character because if you watch that movie and then you watch this series, you realize that something has changed in him. He is starting to kind of go back on his philosophy and kind of change as a character, and over the course of at least the first 3 episodes, which were written and directed by James Gunn, he starts to show like remorse, hesitation towards doing the things that he needs to do in order to get the job done, but really he's just trying to go back to living a semi-normal life before he gets pulled back into this espionage world by former members John Economos and I can't remember. Oh my gosh, I just gotta. Characters from the Suicide Squad who were part of Task Force X, who were pulling his strings from behind. But yeah, it's more James Gunn superhero humor. If you were really clamoring for it after watching the Suicide Squad, I know a lot of people were huge fans of that movie. I'm in the minority, but I can recognize that it is it does exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah. And while it didn't hit me the same way that it hit a lot of people, this is just a continuation of that, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. And it's already getting a lot of recognition, not only for its humor, but also its opening credit sequence, which I highly recommend, Zach, you try out the first episode and see if you like it. I'm not sure if you had you seen The Suicide Squad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had talked about it?
We had, yes.
Okay.
It's hard to remember because the last couple of years have just been an amorphous blob.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not just the last couple of years, the last couple of months, just in general.
Yeah. I mean, you started off this episode going, is it January?
Yeah. So that's what it is. I don't know if it's, December 2021 part 2. As this year never ends. Electric Boogaloo. But yeah, I highly recommend Peacemaker so far. It's got a lot of fun. If you haven't watched any of his other stuff, highly recommend watching The Suicide Squad before watching this. Although it does do a quick recap of his character and his involvement in that movie, so you don't have to commit yourself to the movie. But like I said, a lot of people are in favor of it. And then moving on to what I did for the majority of my week. I only have a couple hours when I get home to commit to doing something or getting something done before I have to go to bed, wake up, go to work, come back home. The cycle never ends. 9 to 5, that kind of shit.
Yes.
And so I watched a Scream movie every day for the last week.
As you would.
As one would, who is insane. I had it pulled up, but I had to pull up.
And this was in preparation for Scream 4.
Not Scream 4.
Scream 5.
It's not Scream 5, or as I would like to call it, 5 Cream, because they would replace the S with a 5.
Yes. So they did that with 4.
Because it's Scriforum.
Scriforum, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's actually a legitimate reason why it is called Scream 2022. Or just Scream on the poster. And that is because it is a requel. It is a reboot of the franchise while also being a sequel to the original franchise, which is another reason why I committed to watching the previous movies. Not only to reorient myself to... is it...
Recontextualize?
Recontextualize, thank you. To myself to the franchise, because I had not seen 2 or 3 in quite a while, and 4 I hadn't seen since I was working at the movie theater, so that's 2011. All the way back in 1996, the original Scream came out, and the movie starts off with Drew Barrymore answering the phone. I'm not recapping the movies, don't worry. Drew Barrymore answers the phone, and instantly audiences are hooked because she's a huge
She's a
star
big
at
star
that
at
point.
the time, yeah.
And then she immediately, I'm not fucking spoiler, obviously, she
It's
gets
scary.
murdered, and by this new killer who asks her what her favorite scary movie is, and instantly people are hooked, and so they get Scream 2 and Scream 3 are already greenlit by a couple of weeks after the first movie comes out because it's that huge of a hit. The original writer Kevin Williamson having written like a 5-page draft of each movie. Scream 2 comes. Scream 1, obviously a fantastic classic. Highly recommend watching it. It's actually currently on Hulu, I believe, and you can watch it there. And Scream 2 comes out. It's of course talking about sequels and the new rules that are in a sequel.
Yes. Each entry into the franchise is sort of this meta breakdown,
Right.
for a certain aspect of horror.
Right.
So the original one was a meta breakdown of slasher movies in general.
Mm.
2 is a breakdown of sequels. 3 is
Trilogies.
trilogy breakdown.
Yeah.
4 was just a straight reboot breakdown.
No, straight remake.
Remake,
because it's
that's
a
it,
remake. Several years after literally a decade after the third film, bringing back old characters, having it still be a sequel, but it's a remake. It's in its own way kind of a requel, but they don't. It's not expressly a requel because it's not expressly a remake. That's why it's called Scriphorum.
Yeah.
But what I like most about these films, and I actually gave my own personal reviews on my Letterboxd, which I'll link down below. And these were, it's going to be down there in the information. Thank you for pointing that. Thank you. Right there. And, okay. Ooh. Those are definitely my off the cuff. As soon as the credits started rolling, I gave my initial review for. Each movie, fantastic, held on its own. I feel like if I had to rank them, it would have to be, and this will include the new Scream as well, which was a fantastic movie. I would say.
Is this from best to worst?
Okay, so best to worst. So
Okay.
Best, original Scream. Second best, I would say 2. Then third best, I would say Scream 2022. Fourth best, Scream 4. And then last, Scream 3. Yeah.
I like the concept of doing a best of countdown where you're just like, in order, Scream 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
It's like, what order should I watch the Scream movies in?
It's
Probably 1 to 5.
Yeah, probably in the order in which they were released. Luckily, because I mean, there are some franchises that do prequels, especially horror franchises that like to do that, or they specifically point out other requels that have come out in the past couple of years that have come out to be more successful, and that's why it's happening in the Scream universe, I should say. A couple of things I wanted to point out. A lot of up-and-coming actors or popular actors at the time showed up that I completely forgot about. Timothy Timothy Elephant is in them. Leonard's mom from Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah.
She's in one of them. I completely forgot that Sabretooth is in these.
Liev Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber.
Yeah.
Liev Schreiber. Of course, Drew Barrymore. I think Drew Barrymore being, of course, the first example of all of these like very popular actors showing up in these movies. I mean, Scream 4 being probably the worst of the 5, only simply because
Just rated 3 at the bottom.
Did I?
Yeah, you put 3 at the bottom.
I don't remember. I watched all of these way too
You
close to
literally
each other.
you did the countdown and then immediately doubled back on it.
Because I feel like Scream 3 is it's the most mixed one, because Scream 1 and 2 were written by Kevin Williamson, and he wrote a draft for Scream 3, but they immediately threw it out because he had to move on to do I Know What You Did Last Summer and work on that franchise, which ironically also starred Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was in Scream 2. She was in I Know What You Did Last Summer 1 and Scream 2, and those came out like 2 months apart, which I thought was an interesting factoid.
If you're interested, I Know What You Did Last Summer has a very kind of bleak history on its creation in terms of the movie.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that after the podcast. I don't know if we want to get to
I wasn't like I'm about to jump into its history and asking you if I'm okay to do it.
I don't know if I want to get sad.
I'm saying to the audience, if you're interested in all, that one has kind of a messy history in terms of production. That I won't go into now because it's a little bit. One, it's sad, and two, it's long. So.
Okay, fair. Okay, so do your research. We'll probably link that down in the description below. Just down there, what we did before. Yep, right there. But basically, he had to move on, and so they got a new writer for Scream 3, and the new writer continued to, fight with not only the cast but with Wes Craven and also with the studio, and so there was a lot of new rewrites on the day, which they directly referenced in the movie, how they constantly changed the script. It was also the most meta. So Scream 3 I replaced with Scream 4. No, wait. Yeah, okay. I had Scream 3 at the bottom, didn't I?
You did.
Okay,
yes,
So
initially it was at the
said.
bottom.
I stand by what I said. It's the worst out of all of them, although it's still a great meta horror comedy film. It's definitely more comedic than, say, the two that came before it. I should be reviewing the newest one. The newest Scream movie, of course, is... it harkens back to the original Scream 1 and to a lesser extent 2 being not only a sequel but a remake of the original. I mean, they literally go back to the original house in Woodsboro where the final act of the original film takes place. I mean, they bring back so many original cast members to show up in this movie. Original survivors that who are tangentially related to the Scream movies or the Stab movies, and I think they tie it together so well to the previous movies. I did this a lot last year where I kept referencing how I was watching the original movie to watch the requel, like Candyman, for example, and how that enhanced the movie, knowing that information going into it.
Right.
This was the best example of doing that, with a little asterisk saying that you do not have to watch 2 through 4 at the very least. I would definitely recommend watching the original Scream before watching this Scream.
So in that sense, it's good to recontextualize like you did for 2018's Halloween.
Yes. Not only because it's a remake, but also because it's a sequel of the original film.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Scream 2022 is it does not retcon anything, because 2, 3, and 4 still happened. They directly reference that with characters and plot points that they specifically speak of in the dialogue. But I will say that just for time constraints, I know a lot of people don't have as much time or choose not to waste their time watching an entire horror franchise leading up into a new installment. But I will say that it does further enhance the movie, much like Candyman or Halloween, or I can't think of another requel that has come out recently. Not Chucky. That was a remake straight. Yeah. Or I guess the new Texas Chainsaw movie is coming out. That would be one, because it's technically a requel.
That's true, yeah.
To the original. So that's probably something I will do. We will see.
That one is a mixed bag.
Yes. Just that whole franchise of Texas Chainsaw is a mixed bag. I highly recommend it. If you're a Scream fan, you're going to love the new Scream movie. You're going to be constantly guessing who it is all the way up until the end, except for I actually guessed it when I watched the original trailer. But
braggadocious Rex over here.
You're pointing the wrong direction.
Not on my end.
Ow.
Not on my end.
I keep forgetting. Yeah. Now,
braggadocious Rex, right?
fuck. But yeah, like I said, I highly recommend it if you're a fan of this Scream franchise. If you've never watched a Scream movie, I highly recommend watching Scream 96 before watching Scream 2022. Just because it will help with a couple of the context and help further put weight on the film. Everybody did great. And finally,
good job, everyone.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Nev Campbell. Good job, Courtney Cox. I want to say, David Arquette, you've looked the best you've looked in years, and I think your wrestling career definitely helped with
champion.
that. Yeah, I will say that definitely helped because he looks like an absolute fucking dweeb in the first couple movies, and he has aged like a fine wine.
So you're saying the championship run in WCW from 20 years ago is what kept him looking good this long?
From his leading role in Ready to Rumble, I will say that... Oh, God, what a deep...
Eight-Legged Freaks.
Eight-Legged Freaks. Oh, my God. Yeah, David Arquette, everybody. Just good job. Good job, David Arquette.
Good job, Dave.
Last thing I will say is that the CGI is a little bit, like, noticeable. But that's also because in a franchise that has been pretty much practical...
Mm-hmm.
The CGI was noticeable, and you'll know it when you see it.
Quite frankly, it's a little surprising to me that you're saying CG in terms of a Scream movie,
right?
Because I mean, it's pretty much been unpractical for all their movies. Well, so that's
they have to do it for a couple of reasons, but I won't go into it because it might be spoilery. But you'll still enjoy it. I just thought it was a bit distracting. That's all. Did not. I want to move on to the final film before we completely leave you for the week, and hopefully you go on to enjoy your lives. But I want to talk about my favorite movie of 2022.
Oh,
we can finish 2022. I found it. It's the best one.
Jump to 2023 now.
Might as well. It's
like when you're playing Monopoly and you pass the go space and you land on community chest or whatever. And it's like
double bonus
to go.
We're getting double bonuses. Dang. So, I watched on a whim because actually I was watching the Scream movies and I had the opportunity to watch Scream or Five Cream Thursday night. Yeah, I decided not to watch it. I wanted to get a break from the Scream movies because I had been watching them one a night. I decided to watch Belle, directed by Mamoru Hosoda from. I'm just gonna go off of Wolf Children. I'm gonna look up his.
It's a new anime film.
Yes, a new anime musical film.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, that is a modern retelling of the Beauty and the Beast story. So in Belle, a young high schooler in Japan is really down on her luck. She's really antisocial due to her mother dying. After trying to save a child in a flooded river. So she's kind of distanced herself from everybody because she feels like there's story reasons. I don't want to go too much into it. But after signing up for this new VR/AR, because really it takes over your entire senses, after putting in like wireless earbuds, it like literally hacks into your eyes to where you're seeing it like visually.
That sounds
just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. All right, it's not a big ass VR headset, but it's just like little earbuds that you put in your ears. And after signing up for this service, she gets accidentally recognized from her submitted profile picture with another classmate, and so her avatar, because it recognizes that other student, it shows her avatar as being this beautiful young woman, and so she decides to, because she's in this VR space and no one recognizes her, that she decides to sing, and she instantly becomes popular, and the whole world starts to recognize her character as like being this, what's the best
super pop star?
Yeah, basically super
idol.
Pop star idol. Thank you. I'm just gonna take your words.
That's why I'm here, right?
That's exactly.
That's what a
all
good
you're
co-host
good for,
does.
you know?
That and documentary reviews.
And
it's like boom, big boom. That's
as her character is about to perform for her latest stage performance, it gets interrupted by this giant monstrosity, this beast character, and so
beast.
she instantly gets intrigued and follows this beast character, and the story kind of develops from there, similarly to Beauty and the Beast, although there are obvious nuances and differences when it comes to setting and story and characters, but it's the same overall story. The animation is fantastic. I watched it in dub, I should say, simply because watching it for the first time in theaters, I didn't want to. Subtitles don't normally distract me, but when it's a big screen and where I was sitting, I didn't want to have to be constantly doing this.
Did they have
it in sub and dubbed.
times?
Yeah, they have it in sub and dubbed, and I do want to watch it in sub because I want to experience the music in Japanese, which you can on Spotify. It's on Spotify.
Oh, cool.
But I want to watch the movie again.
I'll look that up afterwards.
But like I said, the animation is fantastic. The voice work is fantastic. I think they pick a phenomenal cast. It's interesting. Did you watch? You watched The Good Place, right?
I have seen the first season of The Good Place.
Okay, but you know who Jason is, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He does one of the main characters. He plays the love interest of the main character, and the only thing I didn't like about his performance was that he basically is kind of monotone. But I think that's just that character. Luckily,
Right.
he's not a huge portion of the movie. But what I will say is that the story will tug at your heartstrings more than.
You're saying that the director from Wolf Children
Yes, the movie
made
that
an emotional animated.
from the director
movie.
of Mirai, The Boy and the Beast, Summer Wars, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and the Digimon movies. Yes.
From what I hear, those Digimon movies are actually pretty emotional.
They're actually
So
very
that
good.
tracks.
Yeah. I just watch any of his movies. I think Mirai is still on Netflix, I believe. If you wanted to kind of get a taste of that before going to the theaters, or you could just wait for this to come out on streaming. But I cannot emphasize enough how much I love this movie. How much I didn't want to tear up because I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I didn't know the person 2 seats to the side of me, but when I was tearing up at the climax of the film, I heard giggling, and I wanted to throw my soda at her because I thought she was mocking me. But it was a very sad moment in the movie, and I was about to cry.
What if she was crying too?
No, she was giggling.
But it sounded like giggling.
No, she was moving. I out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision, I saw her leaning over and like giggling. I couldn't tell if they were giggling about me, but I felt like that fucking bitch. I felt like she was laughing at me for being vulnerable.
I think you need to frame your
I probably need a therapist.
I think if they're laughing at anything, it's probably the movie in front
There
of
was
them.
not a reason to laugh. There was not I guarantee you there was not a reason to laugh. It was all the characters on screen were crying and
But were
singing.
you sobbing? Were you actively sobbing?
I wasn't actively sobbing. I
don't
was
think
tearing
they
up.
were-
I was tearing
I
up.
don't think they would have
and-
looked over and I could see the tears.
Look at
glistening.
that fucking bitch ass emotional man. You know, I'm just. Maybe I'm too sensitive. I don't know. The movie hit
Oh,
me.
you're crying during a movie. Yeah.
Shut the
obviously.
fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It hit me in the right spot. It's. I think I messaged our group chat, our friend group chat, saying that it was a better telling of the Beauty and the Beast story than Disney's Beauty and the Beast, and it's high praise only simply because I felt coming out of this movie more overwhelmed with the emotions that the film is trying to convey than, say, the Disney film. And granted, that movie came out when we were kids, but
Well, and it's a different audience too.
It's a it's a modern story. I don't want to go too much into spoilers, but certain characters have real life problems that they're having to deal with, and that's why they are being portrayed as certain other characters.
Yeah.
So, take of that what you will. It's a phenomenal story. Highly recommend it. It's just look up Belle, Belle, and it is probably playing at your local cinema, because more and more anime films are being played, and I think that is just chef's keys.
Got to play all the anime films because all of our Western films keep getting delayed.
Well, yeah, honestly, that and they just have there's a Signoff. I cannot speak today. I've talked so much today. My throat is dry. My mouth is dry. There is a significant audience that is willing to go out to the movie theaters and watch anime films. The My Hero Academia films, the Demon Slayer film that came out late last year, those were huge hits for Cinemark. So that's money that the movie theater is making, that they're willing to make, or that they're willing to play these movies that normally wouldn't track.
I remember when I was a young lad growing up with a like for anime, that I couldn't just wait for the new movie from a popular series to drop in theaters. We had to wait until Target dropped them in OVA form and go like, "Do you have the fourth Inuyasha movie?
Yes,
please."
Not the 12th one, the fourth one that came out 5 years ago.
Do you have the new Case Closed movie, which are actually all really, really good, but the Case Closed series in America is kind of a fucking mess.
It's kind of a dog ass series. Anyway, we're
hey, it's a good series.
No. It's just it's just out of out of order.
Syndication was a mess.
It was a mess. All right, we didn't have Crunchyroll. We didn't have Funimation back then.
And we walked to school both ways uphill. I mean, it was on top of the hill.
I mean, you did. Yeah. That was all downhill, baby. But this has been Lights, Camera, Nonsense, keeping you updated despite our best efforts. Make sure to tune in every week for all the latest news, reviews, and what else, Zach?
How do you do's?
Indeed. Make sure to find us at patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to see our content early. And also go to store.lightscameranonsense to help rep your favorite merch and your favorite movie podcast out into the world. And when somebody says, "Hey, I like your shirt, where'd you get that?"
You say, "Mind your own business."
No, you say store.lightscameranonsense.com. It's super simple, not short at all. Tell your friends. I didn't really have a segue into the final little bit, but thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.